My name is Sean, and I've been a photojournalist for more than 25 years, working with the New York Times, Getty Images, and the Associated Press for the last 10. And in this video, I share what I've learned about photojournalism over a span of 4 decades. Let's jump in. Keep a stepladder and extra memory cards in your vehicle. Put a memory card in your wallet. Stash microfiber cloths everywhere, especially if you're using your phone to capture video and photo. Begin your assignment by knocking out the basic requirements. Circle back and swing for the fences. Take creative risks, learn by accident and by failure. This is how we level up while ensuring reliability. Robert Capa is famously quoted, "If your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough." And while this isn't always the case, it's a pretty good rule of thumb. When you get close, intimacy follows. That said, Capa was killed getting too close to a landmine in 1954. And speaking of landmines, at the end of the video I tackle social media and photojournalism, including what I've actually made on Facebook this year. One of the most important traits for a journalist is curiosity. This is the fuel for our fires. If you don't like surprises, being out of place, blazing trails, or asking questions, you may be looking at the wrong profession. Explore angles and identify the best results. Double down on those. When I start making photos, and sometimes before, I try to walk around a subject so I can see what the different lighting and background combinations offer. Caption writing is one of the biggest distinguishers between photojournalists and everybody else with a camera. In a modern age of media dominated by misinformation, having the who, what, where, and when is invaluable. If you'd like to learn more about how photojournalists write captions, I've linked a video about that in the description. The next tip is the easiest strategy to take your game to the next level. Pay attention. When I was younger, I was frequently cutting it close when it came to getting places on time. I was mostly on time, especially when it mattered, but being on time just isn't good enough. Arriving early gives a photojournalist the opportunity to get familiar with the scene, but more importantly, it gives the people there the opportunity to get familiar with us. There's a psychological power when it comes to occupying space before others. This applies to large spaces over time and to exact locations and moments. As a photographer, you're much less intrusive when people come into the space that you already occupy. Getting somewhere early helps you get into your zone. Photojournalism is very much a performance-based activity where routine and state of mind are important. Recently, I covered a protest with a large police presence. I got there early and walked around in front of every member of law enforcement as I scoped out the scene. Among other things, I do this to demonstrate that I'm a professional doing my job. And if shit hits the fan later, they're more likely to see me as such. And this is just one example of how getting there early can be beneficial. Get the name of the dog. Also, get the names of the people in your photograph, unless there's more than 5. I'd suggest a mirrorless camera body, a wide prime, or a wide to medium zoom, and a 70-200. If you can afford it, go with 2 camera bodies so you don't have to swap lenses in the field. And if you can afford it, keep the camera bodies the same. That way the functions and menus are consistent. My typical news kit is a couple Sony A9 II bodies with a 20mm prime, a 50mm, and a 70-200. I have bigger lenses for sports and politics, but I don't use them anywhere near as frequently as those other lenses. Nobody ever gets all the gear they want, so avoid this endless chase. Used DSLRs make great budget-friendly options. If you're interested in learning more about camera gear for photojournalists, I've linked a video about that in the description. The best way to meet deadlines consistently is to maintain control, and we do that with preparation. Prepare your gear the night before. Charge your batteries, format your memory cards, set your ISO and white balance for the expected conditions, and prepare your captions. Most of the time, we have enough information to pre-write most of our photo captions. For example, before heading out into the field, we typically know the date and location for the first sentence and most information for the second sentence of our caption. With breaking news, you have to think more on your feet, but the process is still the same. And if you build a framework, it's easy. Typically, my photography involves a distinct subject and a complementary background, sometimes a foreground. Occasionally, I use more layers. One of the most powerful storytelling techniques in photography uses layers to signal context. These layers can contain subtle messages or obvious ones. Political campaigns do this all the time. The contextual layers of the photograph don't need to be in focus as long as it's still identifiable. Living in the Palmetto State, I often use palmetto trees to help communicate location. And bonus points when I can incorporate Spanish moss. When working on a photo assignment that will involve multiple photos, think like a filmmaker would. Use detail, close, medium, and wide shots. Study filmmaking and pay attention to the different lenses and different shots they use. We're in the age of the photo dump. Learn to edit tightly. Learn what makes a great photo and apply that to your own work. The power of still photography lies in its ability to tell a story in a single frame. Use still photography with this in mind. Some editors and writers might want a lot of photos in hopes that members of the community will come hoping to see themselves on the website. I don't think this is photojournalism. If you're big and tall, use your height to see over crowds. And if you're short and small, use your size to squeeze through crowds and get up close to people. At 5'6", you're a lot less intimidating than somebody 6'7". We each bring different personal attributes to our roles as photojournalists. The challenge is to apply them, but this gives us personal style. For example, some photojournalists excel with physical and logistical challenges, while others are good with communication and have a knack for finding access that way. Most photojournalism work is not a crazy news event. Most photojournalism documents the ordinary, and there's value to that. One goal in journalism is to facilitate community, and that happens by documenting everyday life. Go to gettyimages.com and type in best pics and top pics in the search query of the Editorial tab. Or check out apimages.com and use AP top pics in the search query. Here you'll find a running feed of the best photography selected by editors at the corresponding wire services. Look for weekly, monthly, and yearly collections dedicated to the best photojournalism. Create a social media account where you only follow photojournalists you admire. No friends, no family. Only people whose work inspires you. If you want a head start here, I've linked a giant list of photojournalists on Instagram in the video description. Invest in your physical and mental health, and I'm talking about time and effort. Being a photojournalist comes with mental and physical challenges. And doing this work well involves a lot of problem solving. Assignments can be missions where luck lives at the intersection of preparation and opportunity. What if you're on assignment and there's a torrential downpour? What if you lose power for a few days? When you get up each morning, are all your batteries charged? Don't be afraid to work other jobs or learn new skills. Nurture your hobbies and your friendships. I tended bar for more than a decade, and that taught me a lot about human behavior, high-pressure work scenarios, and getting out of the weeds. Ask your assigning editor questions. In this day and age, one way that newspapers cut corners is by eliminating photo editors and giving the ones that still exist more responsibilities. As a result, communication with photojournalists suffers. You'll be working at a disadvantage if you aren't starting with basic and important information about your assignment. You'll also look like you don't know what's going on, and people won't trust you. That said, when you ask questions of someone who's overworked and who's not a photojournalist, you stop making their job easy. And in this day and age of journalism, a lot of editors are just trying to get things done. This means you run a risk for doing your job well. Choose and ask your questions wisely. Take that information you're given and learn about the places and people you'll come in contact with on assignment. Your storytelling will be exponentially better and you'll gain the trust of those people. And if people respect you and your mission, you'll get access. And access is one of the most important things in journalism. You need people around you that have been there before. Most of this profession is about learning experiences and institutional knowledge. This will give you direction and keep you grounded. A lot of this stuff you're not going to learn in a textbook or on YouTube. If you're interested in finding a mentor, I've linked resources in the description. Establish your own website with a portfolio. You only need 20 to 25 photos, and if you go more than 30, you start wasting editors' time. This is about showing your best work. Have that mentor look over your portfolio, and don't be afraid to make specialized ones as well. For example, in addition to my general photojournalism portfolio, I have specific ones for sports, weather, and politics. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially on social media. Be ready for a long game with an audience that doesn't rely on a single platform. You'll probably need to be a one-person operation, and you should be building an email list. You should also be publishing to and polishing your own website. This is where you retain the most control, and it'll be your home base for years to come. As a photojournalist, there's always more context to explore. I live in a state that started a civil war to preserve the institution of slavery, and that's been pretty important, covering the people and places here. Get to know your community and the communities around you and where they came from. The first publisher of the daily newspaper here was assassinated by the lieutenant governor in broad daylight at the intersection of Route 1 and Main Street. A major role of a journalist is to contribute to a first draft of history. Never forget this responsibility. Learn about licensing and copyright. If you don't know about this, work as a freelance photojournalist is unsustainable. There are two types of photojournalists working on assignments for media publications: staffers and freelancers, but most staff positions are hard to come by. Staffers have consistent work, regular paychecks, equipment, benefits, and camera repair budgets. They're also more connected to a newsroom than a freelancer is. Freelancers may be working paid assignments for somebody else or publishing to their own platforms, and sometimes both. Although it happens, selling or licensing of news photography in real time is pretty rare. Once again, learning about licensing is boring but valuable. This is most relevant for long-term profitability of your work. Also, freelancers don't get pink slips, we get ghosted. Because of the news cycle speed and the high frequency where citizens provide photos of news events at no cost, most paid work involves communication and signed agreements before a newsworthy event. If you want a deep dive about how to get paid assignments with media outlets, I've also linked a video about that in the description. I'm not where I'm at in this field today without tackling hundreds of personal projects, many small and some big. In photojournalism, proactivity is key. Competition has always been high in this profession, and the marketplace is shrinking. For freelancers, this means we'll need to take on our own personal projects when we don't have assignments. How else do we expect to keep our skills sharp like a staffer would at a daily newspaper? The growing question for freelancers is how we monetize those projects. And I hate to say it that way, but it's the reality. I'm still exploring this myself, and touch on that at the end of the video. Learn to live with little or no money and be resourceful. Also, study business. Newspapers are the biggest employers of photojournalists, but they're falling off a cliff. Consider long-term sustainability. And prepare to be targeted by politicians and their supporters as enemies of the people. The changing media landscape has photojournalists bobbing and weaving, trying to survive. If you're not up for a Goliath-type challenge, I suggest looking somewhere else. Join the National Press Photographers Association if you're in the United States, or a corresponding organization if you're somewhere else. This is probably more important than your state or local press association because most editors and writers don't address photojournalists. Photojournalists work within ethical guardrails. For example, we can't ask people to move or perform for the camera, unless we're making a portrait, and then our caption should reflect that. We can't use Photoshop or artificial intelligence to create, alter, or manipulate photos. Photojournalists write captions, and they don't use them for political commentary. And when a photojournalist concentrates on the who, what, where, and when about their photographs, it's much easier to remain objective. Every human has biases, but a framework of guardrails will keep us between the lines. This is why newsrooms and press associations are important. Most important ethical considerations in photojournalism aren't black and white issues and are best addressed with communication between professionals who can apply nuance and experience with mass media. Most of the photography market and the journalism market has been separately and severely disrupted over the last couple decades. Things are tough and they don't look promising. The Washington Post recently laid off all the staff photojournalists. If you're still here, that tells me you're dedicated. Now, let's talk about how to make things work. As a photojournalist, you'll probably need to shoot sports, news, portrait, food, and more. Sports and portraiture appear to be the most valued at newspapers. As a freelance photojournalist, you'll need to take on work outside of the news media market. There just isn't enough work in journalism. For some, that's often a combination of commercial, wedding, event, and video work. Some freelance photojournalists drive for Uber and wait tables. I bartended for a decade. You can use social media to connect with people who will support you. Social media is partially to blame for a lot of the job losses in journalism. Mark Zuckerberg indicated that he wanted to replace newspapers, and he was largely successful. Problem is, newspapers were the entities that were paying photojournalists. That said, social media is here to stay, and independent journalists can use it to build a personal audience. Remember to apply the same guardrails and ethics on social media that you would for a newspaper assignment. Give people factual information about what's happening in your photos. It's not the place for commentary. At the beginning of the year, my personal Facebook page was monetized, and this came as a surprise to me. During the first 90 days of the year during monetization, I grossed about $550. I didn't compromise my ethics or make a bunch of talking head videos. I just applied photojournalism principles to social media consistently. This was my honeymoon phase, when the platform sent me a bunch of positive signals and some return on investment for publishing there. But a few months later, I was demonetized after sharing a video from the Black Cowboy Fest in South Carolina, where the background audio was a speech from the American Revolution just before the national anthem played. Immediately after that, Facebook penalized me again for a post more than a year old. I start the post with a historical quote, but Facebook doesn't show me the whole post, or the whole quote for that matter. And apparently, there are no humans to step in with the algorithmic or AI mistakes that are plaguing their platform. There's been no reasonable recourse for me, and I'm sure no one's surprised when I say that Facebook monetization for journalists is an unreliable shit show. That said, as long as you don't value stereotypical wealth, being a photojournalist is one of the most rewarding career paths in the world. If you have any questions about anything I've said in this video, please ask in the comments. If you're interested in a documentary photography workshop, check out the link in the video description.